Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to this special edition of Reporters here on France 24, in which we pay tribute to the work of our correspondents throughout this year 2014. What a year in the news it's been. It takes, of course, courage and great determination to bring the best stories for you. And our first extract really sums that up. A young woman who risked paying the ultimate price to bring us the inside story of what's happening at the headquarters of the Islamic State group. She filmed Undercover in Raqqa in Syria. Had she been caught, she would have been killed.
The next day, I went to an internet cafe. I had no particular aim. I just wanted to go on the web. I'd hardly sat down when this Tunisian woman, a jihadi, came up, and I felt like I had to give her my computer. Inside the cafe, there were 4 or 5 other women.
هن كان المجموعة شيء 4-5.
Roseanne's curious as to the women's backgrounds.
Every time I tried asking them where they were from and what they were doing here, I got no answer. But eventually, one did speak to me. She said she'd come from France, and I asked if she was French in origin. She said, yes, I'm French in origin, and I used to live in France. When I asked her why she came here, she said, to fight against Bashar al-Assad and against the Free Syrian Army.
Experts say about 20% of Islamic State organization fighters are neither Iraqi nor Syrian. These internet chats are in French.
Ça sert à rien d'avoir peur ou de pleurer ou quoi. Attends, c'est quoi 2 minutes? Tu m'attends 2 minutes, je vais vite fait aller la voir. Je lui ai dit, ça sert à rien de pleurer ou d'avoir peur ou quoi. Ce que tu vois à la télé, c'est faux. T'as compris? Ils exagèrent tout à la télé. Ils exagèrent tout. J'ai pas pris le risque de venir ici pour revenir en France. Je ne reviendrai pas en France. J'ai pas envie de revenir. Parce que je suis bien ici. Il y a tout ici. Mais moi, je t'assure qu'il y a tout ici. Il y a tout ici. Il y a quoi?
Most of these young women don't speak Arabic. They've left France for good to live in Syria. Many have come with or to meet the fighters they're married to.
This is the heart of the France 24 newsroom, where all the decisions are taken each day about the stories that we run in our 3 channels in French, English and in Arabic. There's been no bigger story this year than that of the Ebola outbreak, the largest ever in the history of this killer disease. We've followed it each step of the way, looking at the work of doctors trying to do their best to prevent the spread of the virus. And of course, for some, it's meant a loss of life.
One word dominates the Liberian skyline. Messages like these are everywhere. 7 months into the epidemic, and Ebola claims new victims every day. We meet the family of one of them, 36-year-old Eric Tamba.
Okay, this was actually the university that he did his medical studies in, United Methodist University, Winifred J. Hartley College of Health Science, Qatar, Liberia.
Eric was a government nurse.
Oh, okay, wow. This was a certificate from the high school. This is his diploma.
He worked at an Ebola clinic in northern Liberia. We'd interviewed him there on a previous trip.
All these are his.
But between then and now, Eric died from Ebola.
That was the last person we spoke to that day. Eric Tamba, nurse, saw first ever patient in Liberia.
Oliver hadn't seen Eric in more than a year. He wanted to watch our interview.
Authority? Can you try to describe to me what it's like to try and work in there?
Okay, to be quite frank, I have not been in a fire furnace. But from what I'm doing here, I think it is similar. It is very, very tense to wear the glove and turn around and wear that white or, take material to go in. It's a difficult situation. Only one who look up to God and say, look, I'm going to sacrifice. Other than that, if you talk in terms of money, I will leave this place. It is not in terms of money. But what? I took off as a nurse to take care of people in times of difficulties. It's sad to know that we weren't ready for this battle. They weren't ready for this battle. They had not been trained. We should do everything possible to make sure that they can be honored someday. And if they are honored, then we can also remember them as heroes. 1.5 liters of fluids. You can see it's
Heroes fighting an invisible enemy. Ebola has killed thousands in Liberia.
This is the actual studio where we record reporters. We try to bring you insight into all the big stories, and of course that includes the conflicts happening around the world. The Central African Republic is one that we've covered at great length. France, of course, staging an intervention there 2 years ago to stop a genocide. One of our reporters went on the Diamond Trail. Diamonds, blood diamonds as they're often referred to, the major resource of Central African Republic, the source of riches, riches the people don't see. We went from the Parisian stores where they cost a fortune to the mines where they're dug up. And there's been a heavy price to pay all the way.
Central African diamonds are mostly found in riverbeds. For 8 hours a day, these miners stir, sift and sort the gravel. They might process 4 or 5 tons of silt without finding anything of value, when suddenly a glint of something appears.
To assess its value, the diamond must first be weighted. Then you use a jeweler's loupe to see if there are any internal impurities or not. And based on that, we fix the price according to a grading scale.
The tiny stone weighing half a carat is worth about €90. Nothing compared to the most exceptional stones that can be found here. Up to 2012, annual production was estimated at 500,000 carats. Here, miners work on terraces cut into the banks of a canal. They often have to dig several meters down to reach the gravel.
The source is not far, and we're close to Muka. We know that in Muka there's a lot of sandstone, and sandstone contains the Central African diamonds, so the source is not far.
There's no official register for mines in this region, so inspections are difficult, especially as mining here remains a cottage industry. The director of mines doesn't have the resources to police those working in the sector, from the individual miners to the buyers and the numerous middlemen. It's not difficult to flout the law.
The decision to award the Football World Cup of 2022 to Qatar sparked a controversy. Qatar, of course, a state rich in oil but with no footballing tradition, but of course a country with big interests in TV sports, rights and programming. Our reporters decided to dig deeper. They found migrant workers, especially in the construction sector, building for this amazing event, all taking part in, well, basically work practices that were dangerous. Their passports confiscated. They were saying they were being treated like slaves and forced to take risks that were resulting in deaths.
At Kathmandu airport, the daily carousel of life. Hundreds of Nepali workers leave to seek their fortunes in the countries of the Gulf. In arrivals, expectant relatives await the return of those who are coming back. For some, grief is but an instant away. The coffins on the carts are easy to spot. They are the color of blood. In the last few hours, we have seen 4 of them. Last year, over 500 Nepalis returned from the Gulf dead.
Generally, people come back from there with a lot of money. But we just received a dead body.
Put him in the car.
Raju lived in Qatar with his younger brother, who died on January 14th. Raju once saw Qatar as an El Dorado, but not anymore.
Qatar is an awful country. That's my opinion. I will never go back. I've understood what it was. I lost my brother, and I want to tell all my Nepali brothers and sisters, please don't ever go there.
This report is an attempt to understand how so many healthy young Nepali workers have lost their lives in Qatar.
This is the control room where we put together reporters each week. The production team already hard at work to make sure everything is just as it should be. Well, what about on screen? Xenia Bolshakova brought us an insight into the Ukraine crisis. Her report from Crimea asked the question, was it a land grab? Was it something that people wanted? Was it just Vladimir Putin's decision? Or was the referendum really democratic? Here's an extract of her report.
In the past few months, the symbols of the former state have been disappearing. The Russian ruble has completely replaced the hryvnia, and drivers have taken off their Ukrainian license plates. Crimea has embraced its new nationality with enthusiasm. The 2 million people living here now set their clocks to Moscow time, and the tricolored flag is everywhere. The government building also bears Russian colors. Inside, the Russian coat of arms, the double-headed eagle, has replaced the Ukrainian trident. Sergei Aksyonov played a big part in the separation from Ukraine and unification with Russia. Today, he's governor of Crimea.
Let me give you this document. It confirms that the government of Crimea is now registered with the Russian tax authorities.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We weren't operating legally without this piece of paper. Now everything is in order. As long as the tax services recognize us, we're okay.
Of course, this is an important document. It's like a birth certificate. Today, thanks to this formality, the government of Crimea is officially born.
These administrative successes happen on a daily basis. During this transitional period, Aksyonov goes from meeting to meeting, signing hundreds of acts and documents relating to pensions, budgets, and the penal code. Everything is quickly being Russified to make the unification with Russia both impossible to reverse and impossible to question.
We don't know what will happen now. We don't know how to live. It's the unknown. It's very hard to make plans for the future. All this is strange for us, unacceptable. We are Ukrainian. We want to live under the Ukrainian flag for Ukraine. We wanted Russia to leave us alone.
They say a good piece of television is all in the editing, and this is the edit suite where we do all our reporters' items. The border between Mexico and the United States is described as increasingly porous and a very dangerous place to be, not a place for children. Yet more and more children, some under the age of 10, are crossing that border to try to find a better life in the United States. Our reporters went on the scene to see exactly what's happening.
Sarah has to run dinner time at the shelter.
Hey, good afternoon, how are you?
A couple from Guatemala has been waiting for her.
What are you doing here in Altar?
We're looking for our son.
Ronald disappeared more than a year ago on his way to the US. He'd been deported a couple of months before. The last people who saw him were the coyotes, the human traffickers he'd paid to get him across the border.
He went from here, through Altar, to go to the US. But they say that in the middle of the desert, his legs cramped, so he couldn't walk anymore. So they left him there.
Ronald's parents have searched the whole area for traces of their son. Sarah is the last person on their list.
This month, we've had 5 parents looking for their sons. I've looked through for him dating back to June, right through to today. And he hasn't come up anywhere.
These parents just lost their last shred of hope. Ronald probably died in the desert.
Enrique, you came this morning, right? Go ahead.
On the dining room wall, a map shows the locations of all the migrants found dead in the desert in recent years. One last attempt to dissuade those gearing up to cross.
I don't think about that, because if you think about that, then that's what will hold you back, and I don't want nothing to hold me back right now. It's because my situation, if they get me, I'm looking at a lot of years. So I don't even want to think that. I won't let them get me. I just won't.
Iraq is a wonderful country, immense raw materials, remarkable artifacts, wonderful people. But the image we have of Iraq via the news is one of a country in full disintegration. And in the center of this, of course, the onslaught of the Islamic State group, cutting vast swathes across the country. Our reporter stood alongside Kurdish fighters facing up to the Islamic State group. He witnessed firsthand the plight of the Yazidi people who were forced to flee from their homes, fearing death.
Shia Muslims, Christians and Turkmen have fled to Iraqi Kurdistan. Around 700,000 refugees are living in cramped camps like this. Further along the road to Syria, a blockade made up of more displaced people. This time, Yazidi Kurds. The non-Muslim minority have fled the Sinjar mountain region after being pursued by jihadists. They're desperate for any kind of help.
The Peshmergas fled during the night. They were meant to protect us, but instead they left us to be slaughtered. We fled to Duhok, and now all they give us is a bit of bread.
People die in the mountains. Lots of old people are still stuck up there. We had to abandon our house. I don't know what's going to happen.
They even killed children.
They cut their arms and legs. I have no one. They took the women to Mosul. They put our children in schools in Mosul to convert them to Islam. And now they call us over the telephone to tell us that our children will soon be Muslim.
Their cries for help don't last long. Police intervene to clear the road.
Europe has to help us. There are still lots of people stuck up in the mountains.
That's it for this edition of Reporters, the best of 2014. All that leaves for me to do is to wish you, on behalf of everyone here, a very peaceful, prosperous and happy 2015. Stay with us on France 24’s.